In the beginning, wisdom and intelligence reigned. Humanity possessed the most powerful weapon in the universe. We had the knowledge to evolve and be able to achieve perfection and happiness. The spirit of knowledge was embodied in a turtle and came to Earth. According to legend, one day the oldest old man in humanity, who sought to know, walking along the riverbank, found the turtle. Without a doubt the wisest of all, the old man could observe on its shell a kind of diagram with symbols and images that changed position. The wise turtle taught the old man with patience, as a compass to find the way. Also tells the legend, they say that the old Zen master merged with the turtle and became the Buddha of knowledge, guarded all knowledge and intelligence. But one day the thieves of knowledge arrived, seized all the knowledge and intelligence, took the wise turtle, and locked her up with chains and padlocks. That destroys everything. Wars came, suffering, pollution and epidemics, hate and violence, lies and chaos took hold of everyone. The world went down to hell and was into the abyss and despair. Then the wise old man sent a message of hope and gratitude, called for the guardians of knowledge, were spiritual beings from other worlds. Send them the weapons and the keys to fight against the thieves of knowledge, in order to regain intelligence and freedom. Together with the few free and good beings that remained, took the weapons of knowledge and walked through the desert to extend and publicize the message. All became the guardians of knowledge. Were preparing for the struggle for salvation and to recover the wise turtle. A great battle would be fought. The guardians of knowledge in their yellow cloak fought against the hooded men in black, against ignorance and fear. Until the spirits of good, with its intelligence, managed to confuse the spirits of evil and self-destructive. A great battle was being fought to rescue the turtle. Fought everywhere, they stretched across the sea, and also by the earth. Were preparing for the great final battle in order to recover the spirit of knowledge and intelligence and the turtle of knowledge. The guardians of knowledge defeated the evil beings. The victory of good over evil. In the end, sanity and knowledge triumphed once again. The spirit of darkness returned to Earth. Humanity could finally reach perfection and eternity. knowledge will make us free. The reward is happiness and love.
Cadmus the Phoenician prince, who had been by Zeus prepared with all his armies and warriors to undertake a long journey, had to go to the rescue of his sister, who was captive in a country far away, guarded by a dragon that feeds on ignorance, that provokes fear and paralyzes. Traveled throughout the Mediterranean together with his brothers and his warriors. When Cadmus arrived on the island to rescue his sister, the gods Andes threatened him. Finally decided to rescue her, thinking of one day returning to his distant Phoenicia. Gathered all his armies all over, wanted to accompany him to fight against Zeus. But Cadmus reflected, I knew I couldn't fight with all his army against the gods. So he decided to face only his dragon left his men, and followed the advice to consult the oracle, visited from elves to ask for help from the Pythonesses. And ignorance, represented by the dragon, challenged the gods. There he was enveloped in madness and despair. Dreamed that he was a warrior who fought against thieves and ignorance, had hallucinations, and envisioned a world full of wisdom to be discovered. Cadmus went into the light in search of truth and knowledge. Cadmus' most powerful weapon is his Octogon, symbolizing universal knowledge. Cadmus is considered the first master because he responded and said that the strength of the human being is intelligence and knowledge. Dedicated himself to researching and learning with his Octogon all the sectors of knowledge. Looked for the keys I needed. The dragons that destroy knowledge. Finally discovered the keys, was able to face his fears, and the dragons that prevented him from advancing, apologized and fought against the dragon, against their fears, his ignorance, and with his knowledge I was able to overcome him. With strategy and perseverance, Cadmus managed to beat to ignorance and fear. So Cadmus defeated the dragon. Cadmus was finally able to return to the palace and together with. So throughout the Mediterranean, the fangs that had been plucked from the dragon Cadmus and merged like the snakes for eternity. Of each fang, a school was born. That scared and hurt them.
Heward Klein, explorer and philosopher. had resided near London since 1940, investigated archaeological remains in its explorations, discovered in the Greek diagrams and squares combinations of symbols and numbers, who then translates Cadmograms. These Cadmograms made by Hedwer have their origin in ancestral diagrams from the east and in the Octogon of Cadmus. Asked his friend for help, the mysterious Thomas Queen, to find the keys, and together for a long time. And also the formulas of Cadmograms. Thomas Cohen from a very young age was interested in mathematics and became an excellent performer. From a very young age, he emphasized and was a teacher in the schools. Also stood out among his university classmates. Thomas was the explorer's assistant at the same time of Oxford and Cambridge University, owned the house where he lived and shared with Edward. Gracila Flaffant was a young woman who loved to tour bookstores, liked to read and write, also taught in educational centers, together with her friend Marta. Gracila and Thomas had known each other since college and coincided in research work. Were often and Howard, where they studied. As a young man, he liked journalism, just like her friend Marta. Gracila Font, now a Mexican journalist and writer, wanted to interview Professor Edward Klein, but he always shunned it and edited it. Was in the summer of 1954 in Paris, when Thomas accompanied Edward Klein, where Gracila asks Thomas to help you interview Gert, that the explorer gave about thought and knowledge. With the help of Thomas and his friend Marta, together they prepared the appointment. Gertward agreed and gave him the first interview in Paris. Gracila was happy she had made it. Gert finally thanked him for his interest, and therefore gave him more interviews. Also introduced Merce to Iliade, the historian of religions, but she does not satisfy. Approached him in the street, and Edward replied to the house in London to continue telling him about his adventures. Gracila called on Thomas to do him a favor. Started going out for walks in Paris. Traveled to Boston, where they met as students. Gracila was Italian and they traveled to Rome, strolled through its streets. But you die in. Reached Tibet and Japan. Returned together to Thomas' house in London to see Hogwarts. Was a big house with too many rooms, offices and halls. But Hogwarts preferred a simple room. As Gracila describes in her novel Gert's Journey, Hogwarts' room was full of books, manuscripts, and scrolls between rare and antique objects, all wrapped in a dark and dusty environment. Only light through a window. And all just outside London. During his visits, Edward revealed some of his secrets to her research, and also told him the explorer's adventures and discoveries. Showed him the wings where he kept his treasure, their magnificent antiques, handwritten archaeological remains, magnetic diagrams, etc. Told him that he was always interested in and secrets of knowledge, who traveled to many cities and castles. always in search of knowledge and ancestral knowledge. Also on the streets of London, always on the prowl. Was there, according to who followed him at the beginning too, but then there were many who appeared and crossed paths with him. And Al-Mar, and in the lonely streets of the cities he visited. I felt they were not from here, looked like beings from beyond the grave, or beings from another planet. Never knew if they wanted to snatch the breasts, or if they were the guardians of all that darkness. Feared for his life, he was attacked on numerous occasions, sometimes appeared in broad daylight. Those hooded strange beings suffered hallucinations about caves full of knowledge, dreamed of gloomy and mysterious places, visualized landscapes with a large mansion, guarded by hooded men. Therefore, in all his travels, found himself stalked and fleeing from the hooded men. Gracila, after her visits, returned home from the beach in Greece. To write Gert's journey, Edward asked Thomas to accompany him on his new journey because of his illness and safety. Gracila began her book while, as I had told Gracila, Edward and Thomas began their journey together. And heroes in search of new heroes, about ancestral knowledge, cross in deserts and hills, toward many cities. But they soon felt the presence of these hooded beings, running away from them in the end. Arrived in Japan, and there they found peace, and the spirituality of knowledge and knowledge, science and the tangible, were completed with the intangible of life.
Thomas, on his return from Gert's travels, went to meet Gracila, who still lived in his little house by the beach. Upon receipt by Thomas, announced the death of Edward, but gave him a letter addressed to her, told him, who named her heir to his entire legacy. Gracila and Thomas wanted to resume their relationship, strolled along the beach remembering times past, and travelled again to Greece, then to Rome. With the presence in their minds of Hogwarts, and how they did not go back to Paris. His love grew and consolidated. Later on, they dedicated themselves to playing into the games of knowledge, created new board games, and solved quantities of crucigrams or Cadmograms. Designed the keys to the new games, based on Tegid Cadmograms. decided to organize exhibitions with all the material left by the explorer. Tiredly to their home from the beach, Jeff and Thomas travels. Thomas was diagnosed with Parkinson's and traveled for the last time to Greece, to the origin of the Cadmograms. Continued 4 walks on the beach, aging together and remembering their travels. Thomas' health condition worsened, and Graciela helped him to compose the puzzles of the Cadmograms. His trembling hands could barely grasp the pieces. When she died, wrote his memoirs, and even returned to where hers had found the Cadmograms. Without her beloved Thomas, she kept trying. With her inseparable friend Marta, wrote play stories for children, took walks with his week walk, remembering when I used to walk with shots on the beach, loved to walk through the streets of town, search your home. But he never stopped reading, nor of writing in his room, by the window, as his predecessor and mentor Edward had done. Already in its last days, left that little house on the beach, as he tells in his stories, and moved to another house, a larger one where he kept hers' legacy. Maybe it could be this, maybe another one, where, according to his stories, he said, some nights, as I lean outside to contemplate the sea from my house, observed on the shore, on the weak waves, the silhouettes outlined by the dim moonlight, of those hooded beings, at least 2, and never more than 8. I feared for my life. You want to collect ancestral and immortal knowledge? Find my house and enter without calling, but hurry up. Little time left.